The morning sun spilled over the Himalayan foothills, painting our ancestral home in hues of gold and amber, but inside, the air was thick with the scent of incense and unspoken dread. I stood before the family altar, arranging marigolds with trembling hands, my reflection a ghost in the polished brass. Today was Diwali, the festival of lights, a day when our lineage stretched back generations demanded unity, reverence, and the meticulous observance of rituals that bound us to our ancestors. But this year, the lights felt dimmer, the prayers heavier on my tongue, because my daughter, Priya, the jewel of our family, the embodiment of grace and tradition, had vanished. Not physically, no. She was in her room, I knew, but the daughter I had raised was gone, replaced by a stranger whose rebellion had shattered our world like a clay pot hurled against stone. It began subtly, a whisper of change that I dismissed as youthful folly. Priya, always the diligent student, the obedient daughter who mastered classical dance and Sanskrit hymns by 12, started questioning the very foundations of our existence. "Why must I fast for Karva Chauth, Ma?" she'd asked last year, her voice tight with frustration, as I explained the ritual where wives fast for their husband's longevity. "It feels archaic, like I'm pledging my life to a man I haven't even chosen." I had laughed then, brushing it off as the influence of her modern college friends in Delhi, but the unease coiled in my stomach like a serpent. That unease turned to ice 3 months ago when she returned home for the summer holidays, her hair shorn into a defiant pixie cut, her wrists adorned with leather bracelets instead of gold bangles, and her eyes blazing with a fire I didn't recognize. The village elders had stared, their whispers sharp as knives, and my husband, Rajiv, a man whose pride was etched into the rigid lines of his face, had barely spoken to her since. Tradition was our religion, our identity. We were kshatriyas, warriors turned scholars, and for centuries, our daughters had married into respectable families, upheld the honor of our name, and perpetuated customs that were the lifeblood of our community. Priya was to be engaged to Vikram, the son of my husband's oldest friend, a union blessed by the stars and our families. The wedding date was set for next spring, invitations already printed in shimmering gold ink. But Priya had other plans. She announced it at dinner, the clatter of her spoon against her thali echoing in the sudden silence. "I'm not marrying Vikram," she said, her voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil that must have churned within her. "I don't love him. I don't even know him. And I'm not going to spend my life as an ornament in someone else's house." Rajiv slammed his fist on the table, the plates rattling. "You will do as you're told. This marriage is not about love. It's about duty, about family." But Priya stood her ground, her chin lifted, a warrior in her own right. "Duty to what? To a system that treats women like property? I'm going back to Delhi. I've been accepted into a master's program in social work. I'm going to help women escape the very traditions that suffocate them." The fallout was immediate and brutal. Relatives called, their voices dripping with condemnation. My sister-in-law, Meena, sobbed down the phone, "What will people say? Your daughter has brought shame upon us all." The village panchayat sent a delegation, stern-faced men who lectured Rajiv on the importance of controlling his women. I felt like I was drowning, caught between the daughter I loved and the world I knew. I pleaded with Priya, tears streaming down my face. "Beta, please, think of your father's health, of our reputation. This path will destroy you." She looked at me then, her eyes softening for a fraction of a second, before hardening again. "Ma, sometimes destruction is necessary for growth. I'm not abandoning you, I'm abandoning the chains that bind us all." She left the next day, before dawn, with nothing but a backpack and a resolve that terrified me. Weeks turned into months, and the silence from Delhi was a void that consumed our home. Rajiv grew more withdrawn, his silence a wall between us. I performed the daily rituals mechanically, my prayers now laced with desperation. The family gatherings became a minefield of pity and judgment. At my nephew's wedding, relatives avoided my gaze, their conversations halting when I approached. I felt like a ghost haunting the periphery of my own life. Then came the video. It was sent anonymously, a link in a text message that made my blood run cold. It was Priya, speaking at a rally in Delhi, her short hair whipping in the wind, her voice amplified by a megaphone. She was addressing a crowd of hundreds, mostly young women, her words fierce and unapologetic. "We are not dolls to be dressed up and paraded. We are not vessels for someone else's honor. We are human beings with dreams, with rights, with the power to choose our own destinies." The camera panned to the crowd, their faces alight with passion, and then back to Priya, who was now leading a chant. "My body, my choice. My life, my voice." The video ended, and I was left staring at my phone, my heart pounding. The shame was immediate, a physical weight on my chest. But beneath it, something else stirred. A flicker of something I hadn't felt in years: pride. It was wrong, I told myself. This was not my daughter. This was an imposter, a product of Western corruption. Yet, as I watched the video again, I saw the same determination in her eyes that I had seen when she was 10, practicing a difficult dance step for hours until she perfected it. The same fire that had made her the top of her class. The difference was, now she was using that fire for something I didn't understand. The breaking point came during a family meeting called by the elders. They demanded that Rajiv disown Priya publicly to salvage the family's honor. My husband, broken and defeated, agreed. I watched him sign the statement they had prepared, his hand shaking, and something inside me snapped. This was not the man I had married. This was not the family I had cherished. Tradition had become a cage, and I was suffocating inside it. That night, I packed a small bag. I left a note for Rajiv, my handwriting shaky but clear. "I'm going to find our daughter. I need to understand." The journey to Delhi was a blur of trains and buses, the landscape shifting from familiar green fields to unfamiliar concrete jungles. I arrived at the address Priya had listed on her college forms, a small apartment in a bustling neighborhood. The door was opened by a young woman with bright pink hair and a warm smile. "You must be Priya's mother," she said, her voice kind. "She's at the center, but she'll be back soon. Come in, please." The apartment was small but vibrant, filled with books and posters advocating for women's rights. As I waited, I looked at the photos on the wall, Priya laughing with friends, Priya speaking at events, Priya looking happier than I had ever seen her. When she walked in, hours later, she stopped short, her eyes widening in shock. "Ma, what are you doing here?" I stood up, my legs trembling. "I came to see you. To understand." The next few days were a revelation. Priya took me to the community center where she worked. I saw her counseling young women, helping them escape abusive marriages, pursue education, find jobs. I saw the respect she commanded, the lives she was changing. I met her friends, a diverse group of people who welcomed me without judgment. One evening, as we sat on the rooftop of her apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Priya turned to me. "Ma, I know I hurt you. I know I turned everything upside down. But I couldn't live a lie anymore. I couldn't be the daughter you wanted me to be if it meant losing myself." I reached out and took her hand, the same hand I had held when she was a child learning to walk. "I spent so many years worrying about what other people thought," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I forgot what it meant to be a mother. I forgot that my job was to love you, not to own you." We cried then, the tears washing away months of pain and misunderstanding. In that moment, I realized that tradition wasn't about blind obedience. It was about love, about family, about the values that truly mattered: compassion, courage, integrity. Priya wasn't abandoning tradition, she was redefining it. When we returned home, the village was abuzz. The elders summoned us, expecting a repentant daughter and a chastised mother. But we stood before them united. "My daughter has not brought shame to this family," I said, my voice clear and strong. "She has brought honor. She has shown us that true strength lies in standing up for what is right, in fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves." Rajiv stood beside us, his hand on my shoulder. "I was wrong," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I let pride cloud my judgment. "My daughter is a warrior, just like our ancestors. She is fighting a different kind of battle, but it is a noble one." The elders were silent, their expressions unreadable. But in the days that followed, something shifted. People began to see Priya in a new light. Young girls sought her out, their eyes filled with admiration. Even the most conservative members of the community started to question the rigid traditions that had governed their lives for so long. Diwali arrived again, and this time, the lights in our home burned brighter than ever. Priya was by my side, helping me arrange the marigolds, her laughter filling the air. As we lit the diyas, the flames dancing in the darkness, I thought about the journey we had taken. It had been painful, terrifying, and transformative. But it had taught me the most valuable lesson of all, that the greatest tradition of all is the love between a mother and her daughter, a love that can bridge any divide, heal any wound, and light up even the darkest of nights. And as the fireworks exploded in the sky, painting the world in color and light, I knew that our family was not broken. It was stronger, braver, and more beautiful than ever before.